The spiritual search you are currently undertaking is actually the greatest obstacle preventing your final realization. You feel a constant, gnawing anxiety that something vital is missing from your life right now. This existential ache persists because you treat enlightenment as a distant goal to be reached. The great Indian sage Ramana Maharshi provides a hidden key that dissolves this struggle instantly. In the next few minutes, your entire perception of reality will shift from seeking into simply being forever. We often imagine that the spiritual path is a vertical ladder, where we climb from ignorance to a state of absolute wisdom. Yet this mental map is the very trap that keeps us bound to a cycle of perpetual searching. Ramana Maharshi, sitting silently at the foot of the sacred mountain Arunachala, suggested that the primary illusion is the belief that there is an I, who needs to find something else called self. This concept of a separate seeker creates a profound dualism that turns the present moment into a mere waiting room for a future miracle. When we look at the history of human consciousness, we see a recurring pattern where individuals exhaust themselves through rigorous practices, specialized meditations, and complex rituals, all designed to transform the ego into something more refined or holy. However, this process of refinement is merely the ego playing a more sophisticated game with itself. Maharshi's radical insight was that the ego cannot kill the ego, just as a thief cannot act as the policeman to arrest himself. The illusion is not just the world around us, but the very person we think we are within that world. We spend decades decorating the cage of our personality, believing that if we make it beautiful enough, the door will eventually swing open. In reality, the door was never locked, and the cage was always a phantom projected by a mind that fears its own disappearance. This realization is often terrifying because it implies that our most cherished spiritual achievements are just more luggage on a journey that requires us to be completely naked. To understand this, we must first examine how the mind constructs the I thought as the foundation for all other perceptions. This single thought acts as the gravitational center for our entire universe, pulling in experiences, memories, and desires to sustain its own fragile existence. We believe we are the thinkers of our thoughts, the doers of our actions, and the sufferers of our pains. But Maharshi asks us to investigate who this I truly is. If we pull on this single thread, the entire tapestry of our perceived reality begins to unravel. It is not about gaining a new perspective, but about losing the one that has held us captive since childhood. The dangerous illusion is the conviction that you are a limited being trying to become unlimited. You are already the ocean trying to find a drop of water. This shift in understanding requires a brutal honesty that looks past the masks of spirituality into the raw silence of existence, where labels and identities have no power. As we move further into this exploration, the layers of social conditioning and personal narrative will start to dissolve, revealing the luminous truth that has been hiding in plain sight for your whole life right now, within the very depths of your infinite soul. Consider the possibility that the mind which seeks liberation is the same mind that constitutes the prison. This creates a strange loop where the effort to escape only strengthens the bars of the cell. We often think that by collecting more spiritual knowledge, reading more sacred texts, and attending more silent retreats, we are getting closer to the truth. However, if the truth is already what you are, then any movement toward it is actually a movement away from it. Imagine you are looking for your glasses while you are already wearing them. The more intensely you search the house, the more you reinforce the false assumption that they are missing. This is the fundamental confusion that keeps the seeker perpetually frustrated. Ramana Maharshi pointed out that the mind is like a mirror that has become obsessed with the reflections it shows, completely forgetting the surface of the mirror itself. We are so enamored or repulsed by the images of our thoughts and emotions that we never stop to realize the steady, unchanging background upon which these images appear. This background is not something you can achieve or gain, because it is the very foundation of your ability to experience anything at all. The friction arises when we try to use the limited tools of the intellect to grasp something that is beyond the reach of thought. It is like trying to use a flashlight to see the sun. the small light of the intellect is drowned out by the absolute radiance of pure being. We are afraid to let go of our searching because we fear that without it we will cease to exist or fall into a dark void. But this void is only dark to the ego, which thrives on activity and distinction. To the silent observer within, this void is actually a state of total fullness and peace. By questioning the reality of the seeker, we encounter an uncomfortable stillness that the mind desperately tries to fill with new concepts or distractions. Yet, in that very stillness lies the absolute end of all searching. We must ask ourselves if we are truly ready to find what we are looking for, or if we have simply fallen in love with the identity of being a seeker on a long, mystical journey. True wisdom is not an accumulation, but a process of shedding every false layer until emptiness. The absolute core of Ramana Maharshi's teaching is a simple yet devastatingly effective technique known as self-inquiry or Atma-Vichara. This is not a meditation in the traditional sense, nor is it a mental exercise to be mastered over years of discipline. It is a direct arrow aimed at the heart of the primary illusion. To practice self-inquiry is to turn the attention away from the objects of perception and toward the subject of perception. Usually, our attention is scattered outward toward the world of forms, sounds, and ideas. We are constantly preoccupied with what is happening to us, what we want, or what we fear. Maharshi suggests that whenever a thought arises, instead of following that thought to its logical conclusion, we should ask ourselves a single question: to whom does this thought arise? The obvious answer is to me. Then, we follow this with the ultimate question: who am I? This is not a question meant to be answered by the logical mind. If you answer, I am a person, I am a soul, or I am consciousness, you have merely replaced one mental label with another. The purpose of the question is to lead the mind back to its source, the place where the I thought first emerges. Imagine a hunter following the tracks of a beast back to its lair. The I thought is the first track, and by following it intensely, we arrive at the source of all manifestation. When the mind is held firmly in this inquiry, the thought of being a separate individual begins to lose its grip. You start to notice that the I you have always identified with is actually a bundle of memories and social projections. It has no independent existence of its own. It is like a shadow that exists only because a light is shining on an object. We have spent our lives trying to fix the shadow, improve the shadow, and save the shadow, never realizing that we are the light itself. This realization is the most dangerous thing for the ego because it signals its total annihilation. The ego will fight this inquiry with every tool at its disposal. It will bring up boredom, sleepiness, fear, and even spiritual pride to distract you. It will tell you that this is too simple to be true, or that you need more preparation before you can face the ultimate reality. But Maharshi insists that no preparation is needed other than the earnest desire to know the truth. The illusion is that you are the passenger in the vehicle of the body, experiencing a world that is external to you. The truth is that the body, the mind, and the entire universe are appearing within you, the boundless field of awareness. This awareness is not a thing that can be seen, but it is the seeing itself. It is not an experience that can be had, but the ground of all possible experience. As you go deeper into this inquiry, you begin to experience a profound sense of relief. The heavy burden of being a person with a history and a future begins to dissolve. You realize that you do not have to create your life or manage your destiny because there is a greater power that is already doing everything. This power is not separate from you. It is your very essence. Maharshi often spoke of the heart, not the physical organ on the left side of the chest, but the spiritual center on the right. He described this heart as the seat of the self, the place where the individual I merges into the universal I am. When the mind rests in the heart, the world of duality vanishes, and only the non-dual reality remains. This is the state of sahaja samadhi, or natural enlightenment, where one remains in the world but is no longer of the world. In this state, actions happen, words are spoken, and the body moves, but there is no sense of being the doer. It is like a child watching a puppet show. The child knows the puppets are not real, even as they participate in the story. This shift from doership to witnessing is the ultimate freedom. It releases us from the chains of karma and the cycle of birth and death. The dangerous illusion is the belief that we are small, fragile, and temporary. The reality is that we are the eternal, unchanging, and infinite. This is the message that Ramana Maharshi broadcasted through his silence at Arunachala. He rarely spoke, for he knew that words could only point to the truth, while silence is the truth itself. His presence was a living transmission of this reality, a gravitational force that pulled seekers out of their minds and into their hearts. When we engage in self-inquiry, we are aligning ourselves with that same force. We are choosing to stop running away from ourselves and finally turn back to face the source. This requires a courage that is rare in our modern world, which is designed to keep us constantly distracted. But for those who are truly tired of the illusion, there is no other path. The question, "Who am I?" acts as a solvent that eats away at the false until only the real remains. It is a fire that burns the dross of personality to reveal the gold of pure being. You may find that as you ask this question, the world begins to feel less solid and more like a dream. This is not a sign of madness, but a sign of waking up. The dream is the belief that you are a separate entity in a hostile universe. Waking up is the recognition that the universe is your own reflection. There is nothing to fear, for there is nothing that is not you. This is the ultimate comfort and the ultimate challenge. It demands that we give up everything we think we know in exchange for the one thing that is worth knowing. The path of Ramana Maharshi is not a path of gain, but a path of total loss. We lose our limitations, our anxieties, and our false identities. And in that loss, we find that we have always been everything. The illusion of the seeker is the final barrier. When the seeker disappears, the search is revealed to have been a game played by the self for its own amusement. There was never anyone to be enlightened, and there was never anyone who was ignorant. There is only the self, shining in its own glory, forever and ever. This is the mystery of mysteries, the truth that sets us free. As you sit with this inquiry, let the question sink deep into your bones. Do not look for a mental answer. Let the question itself be the answer. Let it take you beyond the mind, beyond the world, and into the heart of reality where you have always resided. This is the invitation of the mountain, the call of the sage, and the destiny of every soul that has grown tired of the shadows. The dangerous illusion is over. The reality has begun. It is not a new beginning, but a return to the beginningless. It is the peace that passes all understanding and the joy that has no cause. You are the self, and you have always been the self. There is nothing more to be said, and there is nothing more to be done. Simply be as you are, for you are already home in the infinite light of truth. You might feel a sense of heavy isolation when you realize that everything you have built as an identity is actually a construct of thought. It is natural to feel small or even frightened when the ground of your perceived reality starts to shake. Perhaps you have spent years trying to be a good person, a successful professional, or a dedicated spiritual practitioner, only to be told that these roles are just masks. I want you to know that this discomfort is actually the beginning of your true liberation. The reason you feel the friction is because you are finally touching the truth after a lifetime of living in a dream. Ramana Maharshi did not teach this to make us feel empty, but to show us that our true nature is so much greater than any role we could ever play. You are not the anxiety that wakes you up at 3 a.m, nor are you the regret that shadows your past. You are the vast, peaceful space in which those feelings arise and vanish like clouds in a summer sky. When you look into the mirror of self-inquiry, you aren't looking for a new you. You are looking at the silence that has always been there, holding you with unconditional love. This path is deeply personal because it requires you to drop the expectations of everyone else and sit with the raw reality of your own existence. It is okay to be uncertain. It is okay to feel as though you are losing your way. In the philosophy of the great sage, losing your way is the only way to be found. The exhaustion you feel from trying to keep up with the world is a signal that your soul is ready to rest. Take a deep breath and realize that you no longer have to carry the world on your shoulders. You are allowed to simply be, without justification or purpose. Now, let us move from the world of concepts into the direct experience of your own being. Close your eyes for a moment and forget everything you have ever been told about who you are. Forget your name, your history, and your plans for tomorrow. In this very moment, there is a sense of existence that does not require any effort. It is the simple feeling of, I am. Notice how this feeling is present whether you are happy or sad, busy or still. This is the thread that leads to the source. Ask yourself, silently and with great earnestness, where does this sense of I come from? Do not look for a word, but feel the direction your attention takes when it looks for its own origin. It turns inward, away from the world, toward a center that has no boundaries. Stay in that turning. This is the most sacred act a human being can perform. It is the return of the prodigal son to the Father's house. Be still and know. The journey home is not a distance covered in miles, but a collapse of the distance we created through thought. You are the stillness that observes the storm, the silence that contains the music, and the awareness that outlasts the body. The search ends where you stand, for the feet of the seeker are made of the very ground they walk upon. Do not look for the truth in books or stars, when it is the very light by which you see. The illusion has vanished, and only the infinite remains. You have always been free, always been whole, and always been home. In this sacred recognition, the universe finally breathes. Be still, for you are that which never moves.